Hi, it's Maggie here for your Beltane live stream. So happy Beltane to you. I hope you are feeling the good vibes. So yeah, happy Beltane. I had a kind of heavy start to my day. I just felt heavy. I just get like those heavy emotions that come up sometimes. And instead of going to work right away, so I work from home, right? I went for a walk outside. And, my boots were covered in dew, and I picked the first wild mint of the season by the stream that we have on our property. It always comes up there. Oh, and it just made me feel so much better. And I'm sharing that with you because I feel I've been talking about this with several sisters over the last while, that instead of being hard on ourselves and, how we often get that feeling of, oh, just pull yourself together, and just start working or whatever. Like, I listened to what I needed, and that was just a short walk in the grass and in the woods. And I feel it's just those little tiny decisions that are so beautiful and important, and that will spark that self-love and just that intuition of listening to yourself and what you truly need, right? So yeah, that was my day. And I've been I always dry a lot of our lavender. We grow tons of lavender. And good morning, Cheryl. How are you doing? So we grow a lot of lavender on our farm, and I always dry it. So I just make bunches. And over the last few days, I really just kept on procrastinating, actually taking the little flowers off the stems. And then I make little pouches, lavender pouches. So I finally started on that. So the whole house smells like lavender, and it's just, Beltane is just the perfect time for me to get started on that. So in this live stream, I decided I'm just going to keep it short and simple. I'm going to share some Beltane basics with you and give you some inspiration. And then if you would like to hear more, Vida and I just uploaded our Beltane podcast yesterday, and we talk for an hour on Beltane. And we go really deep in some really beautiful and juicy things. So I really invite you to listen to that as well. So I'll leave the link for you. Brittany says, I love lavender. Yes, me too. It's so soothing and flowery and not so overwhelming. And we plant it for our bees, because we have bees and they love it. So if you just want to just take a little moment with me, I'm going to light some Palo Santo for us to tune us in. And I hope that this little live stream will inspire you for your own Beltane celebrations today or over the next few days. So just close your eyes for just a few breaths and breathe. Whatever you're doing, I'm sending you to smoke. Thanking the Palo Santo. And thanking ourselves for showing up for ourselves. So let's leave that right there. So I think Beltane is my favorite Wheel of the Year celebration, because I can see the changes happening in nature, finally after the winter. And at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, I would love to hear what nature is doing around you where you live. And it just feels so juicy. Like the earth, it just feels it's brimming with potential, right? And what I'm really interested in is in how we can use that potential and that, overflowing lushness for ourselves. So Beltane is the height of the spring, right? It's the literally the flowering of life, which we can see here in the Northern Hemisphere. And it was traditionally celebrated as on May Eve, so May 1st. And it was really celebrated as the sexuality of the earth, right, at its peak. And so lots of new abundance and fertility and lushness. And Beltane is said to be the green wedding. So the green wedding is, we can see the color green popping up everywhere, but wedding meaning the marriage between the earth goddess and the sky god, or the god of the hunt and the goddess of passion. There were lots of different names used for the god and the goddess. But what was celebrated was their union, right? They're uniting once more after the winter. They're rising from the underworld of the winter. And then with their unity, showering the earth in abundance and blessings and new growth and warmth. And I don't know about you, but you can feel that fertility of the earth at its peak, right? I can really feel just those stirrings. Like when I was going for my walk this morning, I just felt this like it's almost like this ecstatic feeling of just like, I don't know, bursting open. And back in the day, and it's still done today, people celebrated with the maypole. And the maypole is actually the male, right? The maypole is the male, and the female coming together. So the female being the swirling ribbons, swirling colorful ribbons, right? And the abundance of the female swirling around the male. So it's really that coming together of those two polarities that was celebrated. And it's not so much, male, female. It's more the polarities, that heros, gamos, right? And we can find that within as well. And it's just so beautiful to me how in ancient times that they saw nature and everything that's growing and that abundance as a god and a goddess. I just find that so beautiful. And that is really what was celebrated at Beltane, their union and their blessings. People were celebrating for strong crops, for healthy livestock, and a fruitful new season. It was necessary for them to show their gratitude to this union so that they could have a more fruitful harvest, right? It was like inviting in all this abundance because it was necessary for them to survive. I can kind of see it here on our farm too, where we just planted a whole bunch of seeds indoors. Now we're putting them outdoors now. It's just brimming with life, and it just, yeah, I can just see how that could have been, back in the day. I feel we can all remember that it's finally spring again. We can finally see our seeds coming up. The seeds that we planted are coming up. And yeah, it's just so beautiful. So now this union of the polarities of the god and the goddess can be going on within us as well. So that's what I would like to share with you next. I love, this is, I don't know, it's just really interesting to me. And I would love to hear your perspective on this as well. So the color of Beltane is green, right? Everything is starting to become more green. People decorated their house with lots of greenery, right? And that's also where the green wedding comes from, the greenery of the earth that we can see everywhere, right? And the color green is associated with our heart chakra. Now, when you think about your chakras, you have your 3 lower chakras, right, which I consider them feminine, and your 3 upper chakras, which I consider masculine. And sometimes people say it differently, but I just, feel that lower chakras is feminine more. Cheryl says, yes, I am loving it. Yeah, it just feels so alive, right? And Vita says, good morning, darling. Good morning. I just refer to our podcast too. Yes, so when you think about your chakras in your body, it's the feminine, the foundation, our lower, darker aspects coming together with our higher, our light, our connection to the divine coming together in our heart space, right? Our heart is that middle point between the upper and the lower, between the masculine and the feminine within us. And it is through that union in our hearts that we expand, that creates that expansiveness in our hearts. Our hearts have this huge electromagnetic field, bigger than our brains. And I know I'm talking about this in the podcast too, and I haven't looked it up yet what is right, but I think they measured up to 10 feet all around our bodies. So you can just imagine how electrifying our hearts are, and how that touches everything that we do and all around us and people we come in contact with. And it is through that union that we create as well. So yeah, it's really that coming together of the masculine and the feminine energies within us. So when looking at Beltane, then that brimming potential of the earth that we can feel within us, right? How can we use that potential, that expansiveness that we can feel of nature to our advantage, right? How can we tap into that with our hearts and then conceive from our hearts, from that space? Does that make sense? How we can use nature around us within, how we can use the external for our own expansiveness. So maybe there are any new projects you wish to create, any desires you wish to conceive, or even with the heart, I feel it's so self-love, right? How maybe you would like to use that expansiveness to really tap into self-love. How can you show up for yourself today, this week, this month? Bring those energies, those hopes, those dreams, those visions into action by using that overflowing potential of the earth. Like, use that to your advantage. It's almost like a full moon. It's almost like that amplification of the full moon that illuminates everything. That I really get that feeling with Beltane as well. I hope that makes sense to you. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm really fascinated with using, oh, my cat's seeing a bird. He's trying to climb out the window. I'm really interested in using the external and what is going on in our external world to our advantage in the internal, in what is happening within our own bodies. So I invite you to see how that shows up for you, how that expansiveness can come about in your life coming from your heart. So I love celebrating Beltane with lots of flowers. They're already naturally, growing everywhere, but I also like buying some more plants. I just got a beautiful Boston fern from the front porch, and I sometimes buy myself flowers because I like to keep all the flowers outside for the bees. I just love that abundant energy. It's bringing in that abundant energy. We just got new bees as well, which is just really fun to witness how busy and excited they are. This is a time for just pleasure and sensuality. I feel like just feeling the sun growing warmer on my skin, and feeling the spring rain and that breeze, and feeling the grass underneath your feet. Use your senses, just use your senses. I feel that is really Beltane. Use your sensuality. How does it all feel? You can earth walk, you can walk barefoot on the earth, you can plant some flowers, buy flowers. I invite you to be aware of your senses and what you can really do to love yourself in that. Yeah, I feel buying flowers is not just, for the sake of just, oh, you have to, but really, I invite you to, what does that do deep inside of you, right? And just notice how turned on all that makes you feel, using your senses more, and not just, sexually per se, but just alive in your body. As I shared earlier when I was going for my walk, I could just feel that aliveness stirring up. So Vida says, I made a lemon balm cake yesterday to celebrate. Oh, that sounds amazing. That is, yeah, baking is a really beautiful way to honor. And Vida is sharing lots of fun stuff about fairies as well, and the hawthorn tree in our podcast. So make sure you listen to it. And yay for newbies. Yes, I'm so excited for newbies and a little bit more honey. And yeah, so what I'm also really feeling is that this is a really beautiful time to embrace our inner wild woman, right? Beltane is that wild, primal Wheel of the Year celebration where it is okay to let loose and it is okay to go a little crazy. And we talk more about this in the podcast as well. But I just recently also wrote a blog post about this, how you can embrace your inner wild woman through working with nature, some breathing exercises that I'm sharing, some body work that I'm sharing, if you'd like to know more about that. Another thing that I was going to share is, so Beltane is opposite of Samhain on the Wheel of the Year. So if you have the Wheel of the Year, Beltane is exactly opposite of Samhain. So Samhain is Halloween, right? And Samhain, it is said that the veil between the worlds of our ancestors is really thin. It is the same with Beltane. It is said that the veil between the fairy world is really thin on Beltane. And yeah, I feel if you would really like to receive guidance from your spirit guides, from the fairies, from your inner guidance, your higher self, your angels, this is a great time just to simply ask. Do tarot or oracle readings for yourself and see what wants to come through for you to be aware of. You can link this to your heart opening as well. If you feel maybe a little stuck around that, let me know. We can dive a little bit deeper into that as well if you feel like you want to receive some guidance, or if you want to do it yourself, pull some oracle cards. How can I expand my heart chakra? How can I invite in that union within me through my heart? How can I expand from that place? Ask for guidance. Just simply ask. This is such a beautiful way to become a little bit more in tune with that unseen, right? The unseen is so there. It's so there for us to take advantage of as well. It's there for us to use. And generally, Beltane is the beautiful time of celebration and being grateful for everything that we have and being grateful for our lives, of who we are, who is in our lives, being grateful for the earth. It was this Earth Day, right? Just be grateful and celebrate that we are so blessed. We are so extremely blessed that, we get to do this. We get to celebrate. We get to be aware of what is going on in the bigger picture. And one of the last things, so what I'm really doing here is giving you ideas for yourself. I felt really called to do that for you to figure out what would you feel called to do for yourself on Beltane? So these are just ideas for you to play with and see what resonates. One of the other things that we talk about this in the podcast as well, more extensively, but something that was done on Beltane was hand fasting. And it's really funny. I just created a bundle on my website about self-love. And in that bundle, I also created a hand fasting ritual for yourself. So hand fasting is something that was done on Beltane, right? So it's like hand fasting is like an engagement. A couple would commit to each other for a year and a day, right? It's like a trial marriage almost. So in this hand fasting ceremony, their hands would be tied together with a cord, and that cord would be wrapped around their hands in the shape of the number 8, so the infinity symbol. Again, really showing that unity of the polarities masculine and feminine, right? The number 8. And as their hands were tied, they would say their vows to each other. And what I would really love is for us to hand fast to ourselves, right? Committing to ourselves for a year and a day, which is really a beautiful act of self-love. Again, if you'd like to know more, just listen to the podcast. I'm going to leave the link. Listen to the podcast. I'm going to leave the link as soon as I'm done. Hand fasting, Avita and I were talking about this too. Hand fasting to yourself, committing to yourself for a year and a day, doesn't mean neglecting anything, any relationships or anything, but really, like as the example that I was sharing this morning, that I felt really heavy and I needed to go for a walk, that I felt I needed that and I did. That would be committing to myself, right? And even hand fasting, you can even do this with your desires or your big dreams for yourself. Do a hand fasting ritual with your dreams and desires, or your vision board, or even just visualizing, and commit to that for a year and a day. It's such a beautiful way to make a little ritual out of it for yourself. You can even write vows to yourself as well. Dear beloved, I'm committing to you for a year and a day, and just go from there, see what wants to come out. So I hope that it sounds really fun. Cheryl says, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, I feel that was a lot of information. And I think I'm going to leave that with you. I also found something really fun on the goddessingreenman.com. It's a website about, I feel it's really about the Wheel of the Year. I'm going to leave this in the comments for you. And this is a really cute little ritual that you can do for yourself as well. It's a manifesting egg charm, specifically for Beltane. And what you do is you blow the egg and you paint it and you say a little prayer to it with your desires, and then you just decorate it on a little string and hang it in your house. And I'm going to leave that for you. Yeah, and if you have any other ideas that you would like to share with us, or that you are doing for yourself, and any other ideas, just please share. And if the part where I talked about expanding our heart chakras, diving deeper into that infinite self-love a little bit deeper, if you are struggling with that a little bit or feeling a little stuck, comment below and we can go a little bit deeper, or just reach out to me and I'll see how I can help you with that, because I feel everyone deserves that so much. So please don't hesitate. And I am going to leave you with that. Many, many Beltane blessings to you, dear sisters. Bye.